It's been 2 days since the announcement of Aquatics, and now it's time to dive into what the features are, because the developers and the publisher team haven't been particularly forthcoming with what actually is going to be in this pack. Of course, a ship set, of course, some traits and stuff like that, but what else? Well, we've got some news. The new Dev Diary dropped, and it's finally time to take a look at what is actually in here. 15 new aquatic portraits, 1 aquatic-themed robot, 1 water-themed chipset, 2 origins, 1 called Here Be Dragons and 1 called Ocean Paradise, Angler Civic, a Hydrocentric Ascension perk, aquatic species trait, aquatic advisor, and 4 aquatic name lists. So there you have it, the features that will be part of Aquatics, but thankfully, rather than leaving it that, the developers have actually gone ahead and said, you know what, we are going to tell you everything that is part of this particular pack. So let's dive right in. Let's dive into the Angler Civic and see what they have to say for themselves. So Anglers is one of the new civics that will be coming out with the expansion. It will also be part of corporate authority, so do be aware of that. Basically what the Anglers do is the following. On ocean worlds, agricultural districts are uncapped. Now, whether or not this means that there is no cap to the amount of agricultural districts that you can have, which by itself is just absolutely ridiculous, it basically means that you can have infinite districts, which is rather curious, especially if you are in the market for exploring the joys of getting new pups on board. But yeah, farmers are being replaced with Angler, which produce 8 food and 2 trade value. On wet climate worlds, agricultural districts will cost 50 fewer minerals to construct, will provide a pearl diver job, which produces 3 additional consumer goods as well as trade value, which is fascinating to me. So basically on ocean worlds, you will get an uncapped amount of the agricultural districts with the anglers, and then on just what climate worlds, you will get the joys of the minerals and the pearl diver jobs. It's not 100% clear if both jobs will become available, but yeah, it's rather curious. It's not particularly clear because there's a lot of inconsistency on how information is presented in Stellaris. So whether or not this applies to both is a bit of a question, but it does mean that in combination with, say, I don't know, the fun house that is catalytic processing, you'll be able to do all sorts of fun things with that food because, well, let's put it this way, if you don't need consumer goods anymore because they're all being generated by the agricultural district, and on top of that we have a ton of food, then you can probably transition all that food into alloys instead. You cannot have agricultural ideal with that because, you know, you don't want to have infinite unity. Post-apocalyptic, Shattered Ring, and Void Dwellers can also not get those because those worlds do not have any water on them. Then we have the Hydrocentric Ascension perk. Basically, it's a brand new Ascension perk that was going to be either a Civic or an Origin, but it's actually making more sense as an Ascension perk according to the devs. Basically, it does the following. Ocean terraforming cost minus 25%. Allows the construction of ice mining stations on star bases, which enables the expand planetary seed decisions on ocean worlds. And basically that new decision is something that we'll talk about very, very soon. But yeah, species with aquatic traits will gain a 50% greater benefits for living on ocean worlds, most likely in terms of production and all that stuff, but penalties for living on non-wet worlds. And on top of that, you will get the Deluge Colossus weapon, which requires the Colossus Ascension perk, which makes sense. However, it does imply that you'll need Apocalypse with that, and I'm not a big fan of having Hydrocentric being locked behind 2 expansions. We have talked about this in the past. Aquatics requiring the Apocalypse pack in order to get the Colossus ability is a little bit of a dubious choice, but we'll see whether or not we can actually have a change in that. This has happened in the past as well with the machine worlds. But yeah, the Deluge Colossus weapon, it basically gives it floods the planet. So yeah, if you are ready to do some fishing, then the Deluge Colossus weapon will probably be something for you. Speaking of which, we have the Expand Planetary Sea Decision that is part of this particular Ascension perk. Basically what it does is it unlocks ice mining stations where you can get special frozen worlds and ice asteroids, and every single time you use one of those asteroids or those worlds, you get the ability to increase the size of your world, which is crazy if you think about it, because it basically means that you can potentially infinitely grow your planet to insane amounts, and this takes the one planet challenge to a whole new level, because, you know, it's pretty darn crazy. In addition, with some of the origins, this gets even crazier throughout. Then, of course, there is the species traits. It's a zero cost traits for any aquatics. You don't need to have the portrait, but it will require your species to start on a ocean world, which makes perfect sense. Basically, ocean habitability plus 20%. Housage on ocean worlds goes down by 10%. And output on basic materials such as food, energy, and minerals goes up by 10%. And all the negatives are there as well, of course, with housing on non-wet worlds and habitability on non-wet worlds going up quite significantly, of course, going down for habitability and all that jazz. And on top of that, you will get access to the Hydrocentric Ascension perk, which gives you an additional boost, so it can go up to 20% of that population output, as well as a reduction on that housage usage. Then we get to the origins, one of which is the Ocean Paradise Start. The Ocean Paradise Start starts you out on the largest possible planet you can have at the start of the game, a size 30 ocean world with a lot of food bonuses, as well as happiness and pop growth speed bonuses. And on top of that, you'll have guaranteed habitable worlds that are frozen worlds, so you won't have standard, you know, worlds nearby that you can expand to. Instead, you will get frozen worlds, and this feels that, of course, that you can use these frozen worlds to increase the size of your planet, which basically means that this is the perfect one planet challenge approach. And of course, you will have to combine that obviously with the Hydrocentric Ascension perk in order to get the most value out of it. Very interesting little idea, and it does once again seem that this is going to be a one planet challenge approach. Then there is Here Be Dragons, the most, according to the developers, the most unique origin yet. I'd like to disagree, considering the clone army exists, but still, basically you start with a space dragon in your home system, and the dragon may protect you from harm, but you will need to please it. And this seems like a story-based origin where you will need to make sure that the dragon is happy at all times. And of course, once the expansion comes out, we will disseminate this completely, tear it apart, and see what it actually does. Very, very interesting. The model looks like a combination between a the Void Worm plus some additionals and all that jazz. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff to be had there, and a lot of new content coming in our direction with this pack. Dolphins, of course, and all the other stuff that we already talked about previously. If you haven't seen that stuff, feel free to click on the video on the right, or subscribe to the channel for more updates in the world of Stellaris and sci-fi. I'm looking forward to see you join our ranks. Next time, we're going to be talking about the new ship set, see what they do, and also apparently a new unique model for the Ether Drake that is attached to this particular expansion. So yeah, the new ship set, it looks pretty sexy. Let's see whether or not we are all, if we can all agree on that one. But in the meantime, though, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take good care of yourselves, and as always, each other. Oh, and thank you to my patrons, of course.